Hey friends, welcome to another bonus episode of the Nugget Climbing Podcast. This is another follow-up with Steve Maisch. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, or for those of you who haven't seen my other follow-ups, Steve has been coaching me for the past year and a half, trying to help me level up my own bouldering with the goal of hopefully applying that to harder sport routes someday and some really big goals that I have off in the future. So this is actually the fourth follow-up conversation that I have published with Steve Maisch, and it's the fifth episode as well because we did a full-length episode back in episode 70. And if you want to check out any of those episodes for more context before listening to this one, I put links to all of those right there in your podcast app, so you can check those out. But yeah, each of my follow-ups with Steve have basically just been a recorded coaching call between Steve and I talking about my training, how it's going, things like that. And in this conversation, we talked all about my summer training plan that I'm doing right now. And I actually designed my own plan this summer, and this conversation is the first time that I gave it to Steve and ran it by him, and it was really helpful to get some of his feedback and recommendations, and I made some tweaks to my plan based on what he had to say. So I hope it's helpful, and I hope it's interesting to you guys who are training on your own or are still new to a lot of this stuff. I think the context could be really helpful for those of you who are interested in following my own training journey. We talked a lot specifically about how to get stronger on the Moonboard. I have a 2016 Moonboard set here at the gym that I'm training at right now, and I really want to get better at climbing on those yellow crimps on the 2016 set. I think that's going to help my rock climbing and help my sport climbing a lot as I move into the fall and plan to tackle some 514s in St. George. So yeah, Steve had some really helpful feedback for how to get better at the Moonboard with the goal of being able to apply that strength to rock climbing later this fall. I'm going to share a free teaser of this conversation per usual for those of you who are not patrons of the show, so you can get a taste of this episode and what to expect if you sign up for Patreon. And if you do sign up, you can get access to the full episode right now, along with more than 36 other follow-ups that I've done. You'll get access to all of them as soon as you sign up, and you can cancel at any time, no questions asked. One more thing I want to mention briefly is that in this conversation, I talked about a V12 boulder problem called Wildcat that I was hoping to project this summer in Upper Chaos Canyon here in Rocky Mountain National Park. I'm recording this in Estes Park right now. And unfortunately, right around the time that we recorded this conversation, there was a big rock slide up above Upper Chaos and Upper Chaos and Upper. That whole region is closed to climbing. So I just wanted to throw that out there for any of you who might otherwise be confused about that in this conversation. I am no longer trying Wildcat. I'm just spending more time training in the gym instead. And Upper Chaos Canyon and everything above that is closed to climbing at this time. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And without further ado, here is Steve Maisch. Nice. Well, have you had a chance to look at the summer program?
Yeah, I did. I think it's it seems like it's working well. I was looking at your weights. They're definitely doing pretty good, particularly with the bench. You're pretty good at the bench.
Thanks, man. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but when I was 17, my senior year of high school, I didn't do a sport. I did baseball freshman year, and then I pole vaulted for 2 years. And then my last year, I didn't do a sport. And I just didn't know what to do with myself, at all. And my friend Alex got me into lifting, and I just had a year-long chapter of being a total meathead. I just would go to the weight gym. I don't even remember my program, but it was twice or 3 times a week. I would go to the weight gym. I would bench press. I would do weighted dips. I would do this obliques twisting core machine.
Oh yeah.
I think maybe a handful of times I did some weighted pull-ups, and a handful of times I did the leg press machine, but that was only if I felt guilty about how lopsided I was, I would just do those 3 things, and then I would go home. And I was 17 years old. I got freaking huge. Like my parents bought this this big bag of whey protein from Costco that had creatine in it, and I didn't know that it had creatine in it. So I was all puffed up all the time. I would like come home and make myself like a shake with like a big glass of milk with protein powder in it. And I remember at the end of however long it was, like a year or 6 months, probably a year of doing that, I benched 225 at like 160 pounds or whatever I was at the time. Wow. And I could bench press 100-pound dumbbells, like singles.
Oh, wow.
And it was just stupid. I could do dips with like 90 pounds added to my waist. So I think I've always like been able to hold on to a lot of that bench press strength, even when I've neglected it as a climber. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it kind of sticks with you.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, you know.
No, it's great. It's
good to have.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm feeling really good. It's been really fun. So for people listening, for the last let's see, so 2 winters ago, and then last summer, and then last winter, I've just been going off of a program that you've given me or that we've created together. And then this summer, I felt really motivated to plan my own training for the first time in a long time. And I've been wanting to repeat a program that I did over the winter of like 2016, 2017, leading into a trip to Bishop that I took. And it was like my best week of climbing ever. Like that program just worked really well for me. I was training on my home wall, so it was a little bit different as far as the logistics, but it was just really stripped down. It was like 2 days of hard bouldering a week, 2 or 3 days of weightlifting, focusing on just a few key lifts, and then a few days of hangboarding, focusing on just a few key grips and really low volume. Everything was low volume. And it just worked awesome. I did that for 2 months, had an amazing trip. I was the strongest I've ever been. And then I did something really, really similar the next winter after I'd recovered from a finger injury over that summer and fall, and had really similar results again. So I've been wanting to do it ever since, but I had a few years where, like after that, 2018 in the spring was when I got carried away with trying to lose weight and got really light, and then gained weight again, and have been kind of waiting until I felt really healthy and, just like strong and had a good base again. So that was kind of the foundation of the program, and I kind of broke it into 3 months, June, July, and August. And June was a little bit less structured, starting to do some of those lifting sessions, lifting twice a week, focusing on deadlift and bench, and some type of a row exercise 1 day a week, focusing on weighted pull-ups and dips, and what's the other one? Kettlebell swings the other day of the week. And so for June, I was just kind of easing back in because I haven't really lifted steadily in like 3 years. I haven't done like heavy compound lifts in like 3 years. So June was kind of like getting back in the swing of things, like ramping back up, starting out pretty conservative with the weights and stuff, RPE maybe like 7, 70% effort on the session or on the sets, things like that. And yeah, now we're talking in early July, and I just finished like 1 week of the phase 2, which is actually like lifting pretty heavy now again. And I'm spending 1 day a week bouldering on the Moonboard. And instead of doing what I did in the past, I took your strength session. So like the 15 boulders, doing 5 boulders and then 5 slightly harder boulders, and then 5 of the same grade that you started with. So kind of doing a pyramid of those. And because I really struggle to project on the Moonboard. I find that like I just hit a wall where I feel like I can't even hold the holds, and I just feel like I can't really do anything. So doing a more of a volume strength-based bouldering session on the Moonboard has felt really good. And then my second climbing day per week, I want to just project a really hard boulder in Rocky Mountain National Park. I want to try Wildcat, the V12 up in Upper Chaos. And I've tried it a little bit. It's gone really well so far. I'm really psyched. I think it suits me well. It's really tensiony. The holds are reasonable. I can hold the holds. And then if I don't get enough climbing in because of weather or things like that, then I'll do a more slightly more project-oriented Moonboard day, either in addition to that or instead of that, is my second climbing day. But yeah, it's been awesome. Like the climbing volume is really low. It's only 2 climbing days a week, or maybe 3 if I have a short outdoor session and kind of split it up with the Moonboard. But the climbing volume's low. The weightlifting volume's pretty low. I'm training 4 days a week total. And so far, I've just like, every day's been a plus day. Like every day I felt a little bit stronger than last session. I've noticed the difference, and it seems to be really sustainable. So I thought about adding more climbing, but I think for now I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and just try to keep ramping up the intensity. So yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the comments I was gonna make on the calendar. You had like a climb question mark day on a Saturday, and it was like it would have been 3 days on. And I was going to say like that, that's where you start to dip a little bit harder, too deep into recovery time. And if you get it, kind of works both. It's like, it's sort of compound. Like you think about it, okay, you're going to do one climbing day where you're going to be fatigued. So that's going to dig a hole deeper, but then you're only getting one rest day before a big training day. So that's going to make that training day a little bit, you're going to be a little more fatigued on that training day when you really want to be hitting that day of the week, like at this point, as fresh as possible.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say like, yeah, like take that whole weekend off, like Saturday, Sunday as rest days. I think that's what it ended up being.
I think I might do that. I had put that day there just in case, like, friends come to town and want to climb, things like that. But it might turn into more of like an active recovery day where I just go on a hike and just like support my friend who's climbing on their own thing. And that's it, just go check out new stuff, look at things, maybe hike up to the crags and like check out Wizard's Gate, but not even climb, just explore, go on a hike, move my body, things like that. But I think you're right. It's always tempting to add more. Especially when you talk to other people. Like I appreciate you because you always validate me in my low volume approach to hard climbing, but I was talking to another friend and she's a really good coach, and I was sharing what I was thinking of doing, and she kind of balked at like the only 2 days a week of climbing. But I'm also hitting the fingers 4 days a week. I'm doing some hangboarding on each of those strength sessions. But that's just worked really well for me in the past. And whenever I've struggled to adapt to my training, it's always because I'm trying to fit in too much climbing. So I think I'll stick with this at least for a couple more weeks and see how it goes.
Yeah. And I'm always an advocate of more climbing than relative to lifting and hanging and all that stuff. But I also think in your case, it's a little bit unique in that, you just spent like a year climbing pretty much exclusively.
Totally.
And you were definitely seeing near that, like on the Waco trip, like, okay, I'm hitting my strength ceiling now. And you hunker down and improve that strength, those really basic strength metrics, like your pull-ups and some core, your deadlift stuff. And you just pull strength and then your finger strength, and make that the real focus of it. And the climbing is kind of like more a power side. Like you want to, like the Moonboard and projecting is kind of good. It's sort of snappy, and you get a little more power there, and you get kind of the recruit, like getting your whole body to take that strength repeatedly and use it in a climbing specific way. So you're kind of slowly, you're keeping that all together, as opposed to, the opposite would be like no climbing for say 2 months and you just do pull-ups. And what's going to happen? You're going to start climbing again and you're going to be really strong pulling, but you're literally going to pull your feet off the holds. Like I see people do that sort of style
totally
a lot too. But the 2 days a week, I think, of climbing is really, I'm a big fan of that. Like I would say if you were someone who, spent a lot of time at the climbing gym and was like not climbing outside as much, I would push the climbing more. But I think in your case, you'd spend so much time climbing outside that you need to hunker down for a little while and do the low volume, brute force type stuff.
Totally. I'm glad you said all that, because it is really specific to me. And I think that's really important context that you just shared. And yeah, that's right. I think it's like the way I'm thinking about it is that it's like it's enough climbing to keep my skills and my movement really fresh. At least it was for that Bishop trip. Like I showed up to Bishop and just felt like I was climbing amazingly well because every session was so high quality. Like I showed up with tons of intention and focus because I was only climbing twice a week. I could really give like my whole attention to those sessions. So it's enough to keep the movement really fresh, but I've just gotten better results from hangboarding and deadlifting and things like that when I integrate it with climbing, and you're like applying that strength to the wall week by week, rather than getting stupid strong and then it takes like a month to learn how to climb again with those new unlocked strengths later on. I've tried that too, and it just didn't work as well. So
yeah, you lose the strength you earned trying to remember how to climb for a month. So by the time you figure out how to climb, you're weak again. So it's like, okay, that just didn't work out.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think like the 2 days a week, as long as you're also hitting it, like you're hitting that as fresh as possible. And it's more a psychological thing, you're not like slogging through the climbing workout. Like you can kind of slog through a weightlifting workout, but I think it's important to be psychologically psyched up to go climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the workouts will be just that much better. And, really, think of it, you add one more climbing day in the week, it's going to be some sort of high volume, just make yourself tired type of thing that's going to negatively impact everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for a solid like this, I like the way, I think I would have set it up something similar to that.
Cool.
And then the fact that you wanted to lift weights is like, I think I think this winter I was sort of trying to be like, okay, like this summer, just hunker down and do some hangboarding and some weightlifting and, let the performance climbing like kind of fall, like not necessarily fall away. It doesn't have to fall away, but just sort of change the focus onto some brute strength measures.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool because I actually finally felt psyched to do it. I think after this spring and trying a hard sport climb with Joe, that got me really fired up. I just like, it's time to level up in some key ways. And I finally have like the motivation to do it because there's this climb I want to do that's really hard. It's been really interesting. Like this is the first time I've lifted consistently while I've also probably been at a healthier body weight and when I've also been like eating enough. And my God, like those things have made a huge difference. And I mean, I'm noticing it week to week with my deadlift going up and things like that. I'm deadlifting more than I ever have, but I'm also heavier. So relative to my body weight, I'm hoping to improve a little bit more. But I'm really noticing it in the recovery after that. And like, I can do a heavy deadlift session, take one rest day, and then go try a V12 project and feel really strong. And that's like kind of been mind blowing. Like that's kind of a new experience, I think. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you need to, that's how you recover. You eat more.
Yeah.
Like it's like that year you did where you just like bench pressed and, chugged creatine and protein. I was about to say like, think about how good you felt that whole year. You're probably just like crushing in the weight room. And you might have gained some weight, but like, why not approach climbing in a very similar fashion? Like trying to eat more and, I don't know, helps recovery.
Totally. Yeah. I'm ditching the 2%, the big glass of 2% milk though.
Yeah, that's probably good.
But yeah, so for people listening, I'll share my whole summer program that I wrote out as well as my calendar in the show notes so you guys can see this and visualize it. I'll leave my notes in there so you can see everything. But yeah, the way I have it set up is I've rented a co-work space here in Estes while I'm here. And so I really wanted to have a weekly routine. It just kind of felt like something I needed to do for a while, was just have a little bit more of like structure and a weekly routine. And it works well with Rocky Mountain because it's really nice to avoid weekends up there. So the way I have it set up is the Moonboard day, the more strength bouldering day, is on Mondays. And then the next day I do a strength session in the weight gym plus hangboarding. So that's the deadlift and bench. And right now I'm doing seated curls, like the seated curl bar thing. That's something I got from Yves Gravel that I was psyched to try, and I'm really liking that. It really works your abs, actually. I was really sore.
I wanted to try, after I saw him do that, I was like, I got to try that one.
Yeah, dude, my abs were so sore after the first session. It's almost like front squatting, like keeping that rigidity with the weight out in front of you. But yeah, so that day is paired with max hangs doing a half crimp position. And so that's Tuesday. And then I am resting Wednesday and kind of giving myself the option to rest Wednesday or rest Wednesday and Thursday. And then my next 2 days are projecting, trying to do a V12. And then the day after that is another weight gym day, focusing on weighted pull-ups and dips. And I want to do an exercise on the spray wall. I've been doing a cable pull machine to work on basically a gas stoning movement for Veritas low left, actually, that V12, because I tried that last year and I could almost do the move. I just couldn't do the transition over. It's a really hard shoulder move, and then you have to fall in and match. And I couldn't fall back. I couldn't release the shoulder position. I could hold it if my chest was really tight to the wall, but I couldn't sink back and match and then roll through and do the next move. So I've been doing the cable pull machine to kind of try to mimic that, but I want to move into doing replicas on either probably the kilter board that's here. It's at 25 degrees, so I think I can use really directional holds and kind of start working on that. So yeah, climbing day, weightlifting day, rest day, climbing day, weightlifting day. That's the short answer, or that's the short version of it. And then I'm hitting on the fingers every single day, doing a little bit of hangboarding every day. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's been awesome. I was down in Flagstaff for a chunk of June, and that was the first month that was kind of more of a ramp up. And my climbing was a lot less structured because I was just going out and climbing outside with friends. And the performance was a lot more all over the place. And now that I'm kind of locked into a more consistent routine with the Moonboard and things being more measurable, every day has just been a plus day, and it's been awesome. So I think this is a good balance of everything.
Yeah. I think I like the way it's set up. I mean, I had a few things I was going to say, just sort of general things. And one would be, I know you don't really like projecting on the Moonboard. You like the volume. And I think that's really the beauty of I think the Moonboard works really well, and boards in general work really well at that 2 to 3 grades below your max. But it would also be nice to figure out what your max is, so that you can have those grades below be a little bit more thoughtful as to where you're doing it. So like you said on there, you were trying Clinton Sachs, I think 7B.
Yeah.
And that 7B, then I would say spend a couple of days on the Moonboard trying to see what the hardest benchmark you can do on the Moonboard is. And then once you have that in your pocket, then you base your volume workouts off of that. So let's say you did that 7B, then you might be able to do a day of 560 pluses, 5 7As, 560 pluses would be your volume day.
Yeah.
And then that way you just start out with that. And then once when you move into August, so then I was thinking when you move into August, switch your Wildcat bouldering day after your 2 rest days, and then put your Moonboard day where your Wildcat bouldering day is now, but have it be a volume day.
Okay.
So you're doing that one project day. Basically Monday is your project day for the whole entire summer. The 1st of July, for July, it's projecting on the Moonboard. And then I think it's Thursday is your Wildcat day. But then once you move into August, Monday is projecting on Wildcat, and Thursday is more volume on the Moonboard.
Okay.
Would
gotcha.
be one option. And then, yeah, oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say, now that you mentioned the replicas for that move, a good way just to do it, because the difficult thing with doing replicas is getting the right level of difficulty. Like if it's too hard, you can't do the move, so you're not training it. But if it's too easy, you're not doing the move, you're not doing it the right way. You could, like, if you have a big jug for a Gaston, yeah, you can just lay off that thing and pull it back in and do all this stuff. So it can't be too easy. So a good way to do that is to, one, be real thoughtful about what you're doing. I think that's a great way to do it. But one is to, like, okay, you have this move that it's pretty hard. And what you do is do reps on it. So you might do it 5 times either side, and not like you do the move, step off the wall, shake out for a minute, like, come back and do it. And then start adding weight to yourself, like adding a weight vest to fine tune that difficulty of the move. Like, get it to be where, okay, like if I've got this big weight vest on, I can't do the move. But if I take 5 pounds off of this weight vest, I can just barely do the move. And then that is a good way to sort of fine tune that difficulty level.
That's great. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Replicas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I did last week, I might just keep doing this actually. So I had planned to do the project day, and then the next day was just a strength day in the weight gym with some hangboarding. But what I did last week, my project day got cut kind of short because it rained. So I projected for like an hour, and I'm resting a lot during that. So I probably could have done that for 2 hours or longer. So, I came back down, and then the next morning I did some projecting on the Moonboard and tried that 7B. And then I rested and worked during the day. And then I did the strength stuff in the evening. I did like a split session, and I actually quite liked that. So I might keep doing that, especially if I don't feel like I got a really full day in on the proj, and start to see like where my project level is. Because that 7B, I got pretty close to doing it in a day. So I think that's pretty close to my in a day max on the Moonboard. And hopefully my true max is more like 7C or something. But I don't know, man. I tried a couple of them. They feel so hard. It just feels almost like pointless to try them. But I've been bouldering long enough. I know that like I just need to stick with it and just keep trying those moves. But
there is a little bit of the campus board phenomenon with the Moonboard, where like campus board, you can do
just hit a wall
147, and you're going to be at 147 for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
sort of. For a lot of people. And the Moonboard, there's a similar thing to that. I think that's where like the training a couple of levels down does kind of push you through, because even a 6B plus on the Moonboard, it's similar. You might even be using the same holds as a 7C plus, and the movement style is real similar. So you're able to manipulate that intensity variable fairly well. And then you can start playing with the volume and intensity levels. But I think that's the nature of the beast on the Moonboard. And but it is good to figure out what that max level is. And to be honest with you, it's not like you're going to figure out too many secrets. Like your in a day max on a Moonboard is pretty close a lot of times to your
max max.
To your max.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's not like you figure out, oh, well, if I put my heel this way, I can actually do this move. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I can't pull to that hold, so I'm not going to be able to pull to it tomorrow.
Yeah. It is so crazy, man. This is a tangent, but I was up trying Wildcat V12. I did really well on it. I still have a couple moves I need to do, but was like getting reasonably close to doing those moves and did all the other moves. Like I think I have a good shot at doing it this summer. And then I came back down and felt really good the next morning because I'd only climbed for like an hour and was projecting, just testing out some 7Cs, some V9s on the board, and just having the thought that like these would be harder for me to do than Wildcat. Like these V9s on the Moonboard would literally be harder for me than the V12 up and upper that I'm trying. It's just so bonkers.
It is bonkers. And it's, and I think that's kind of the beauty of it. And like if you're really good at the Moonboard, like climbing more on it isn't like you don't need any of that. But if you're not good on the Moonboard, it's pointing to a particular weakness there.
Yeah.
And I think for, it's finger strength, it's snappiness, it's pull strength. And if you can improve that a little bit, it's going to help your outdoor climbing quite a bit. Like, I mean, you can imagine if you can do Wildcat and climb, you're maxing out at V8s on the Moonboard. Imagine what would happen if you maxed out on V10s on the Moonboard.
Totally.
Like then, you're like, okay, I'll just do this V14 over here.
Totally. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the good thing about the Moonboard, this is the case with all boards, but it seems kind of specific with Moonboard, is that you can adjust the intensity level so that like the V4s are really similar to the V8s in the movement style.
Yeah.
So you can just do more volume on these lower intensity levels, building up those Moonboard skills and strengths. Whereas if you're climbing in a climbing gym, like a V4 climbing gym is so different than V8 in a climbing gym. Like it's almost a totally different. They're oftentimes like very different styles of climbing. And the boards you can, and really, I should say any board that's, whatever, 12 feet tall and has these fixed holds is going to work that way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think that's true. And it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me how you hit that like hard stop though with the projecting. And actually, I want to ask a question. So for the strength bouldering, I totally understand that like if you can find your max, you can figure out where you should be doing that strength workout. I just decided to start really conservatively and do a bunch of 6B pluses and 6Cs the first day just to kind of like get in the hang of climbing on the board again. And that went really well. So session number 2, I just did 5 6Cs and then 10 6C pluses because those all went really well as well. So it seems like you could also just start easy and ramp your way up. Any thoughts there? Like, do you think it would have been better to start by finding my max and then using that to figure out where my strength sessions should be? Or is there value in just like having an easy session to kind of just get back in the flow of moonboarding?
I think there's the way you did it, I think is good. I think you always need a couple of sessions on the board just doing volume before you're able to when I first get back on the board, it's like, even if I've been climbing a bunch, I've been climbing inside a lot, it's just a different thing. It takes me a few days on the thing to get it back. So I like that idea of, doing like your 6B pluses and then your 5 6Cs and 5 6B pluses. An alternative way to do it would then be your next workout is you bump everything up one. So you do 5 6Cs, 5 6C pluses, 5 6Cs. If you succeed there, then try the 5 6C pluses, 5 7As, 5 6C pluses, and progress it that way till you hit your max volume level. And then that's basically the same thing. I mean, the other way is just kind of going in the other direction. Yeah. With a few assumptions there. Like, I mean, like you think about it, it's maybe not so linear. Like if you did a 7C on the Moonboard, V9 on the Moonboard, then your pyramid would be like estimated to be like 5 V6s, 5 V7s, and 5 V6s, which would be a pretty hard Moonboard day.
Yeah.
Like that's and even though your max is that level, but if your max is more at like the V5 level, then I just don't think it's linear. I think once you start getting up to the upper levels, it does change a little bit.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. One thing that's interesting, you're talking about how the cool thing about the board is like you're still training the same movements even at the easier grades, and that's true. And I think it's valuable because like something I've always struggled with is just climbing with a lot of weight on my hands, even on good holds. So swinging around and cutting feet and stuff on decent holds is good for me. But, in just testing out a couple of the V9s that I tried, I noticed I think there's like a real hard stop for me once the climbs transition to more of the yellow crimps. This is the 2016 setup for people listening. And once the climbs start integrating those smaller yellow crimps, but you're still stretched out without much weight on your feet, man, I feel like I just get crushed there. And I wonder if you have any advice for me. I've noticed that, like, as I've settled at this new body weight, as I feel stronger again, as my climbing's improving, the one thing that still feels like a struggle to kind of catch back up to where it used to be relative to my weight is small crimps, just like being able to crank on smaller holds. And yeah, trying a couple V9s with those little yellow holds. They're not even that small, but just at that 40-degree angle with more weight on your hands on like a half pad crimp or even 3/4, I just was like, well, I can't even hang here, like let alone make any sort of dead point movement to the hold, let alone like jump from the hold, things like that. So do you have any thoughts there, or any advice, or any ways I can be, I'm doing some full crimp training and trying to work on decreased edge size on each climbing day, just so twice a week I'm hitting that. But I wonder if you have any more advice or thoughts for me there.
Yeah, I think climb, and this is again the good thing with the Moonboard in particular, is like, yeah, the yellow holds are going to give you troubles if your finger strength is an issue, finger power as well. So just find problems in probably what would that be, like V5-ish range, V4, V5-ish range, that focus on the yellow holds and structure your strength pyramid around those problems, so that you're doing, because I know there are a few.
Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed that teaser. If you want to listen to the rest of our conversation, you can get access to it right this second when you sign up for Patreon for just $5 per month. You'll get access to this follow-up and all of the follow-ups that I've published so far. The full version of this one was about an hour and a half, so there's a lot more content to listen to and many more nuggets for you guys if you sign up for Patreon. There's a link right there in your podcast app if you want to sign up, or you can go to patreon.com/thenuggetclimbing, check out the perks. And you can always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or anything. I'd be happy to chat with you guys. It's $5 a month for Patreon. It takes just a few minutes to sign up, and you can cancel at any time, no questions asked. And it's a really great way to support the show. All right. Thank you guys for checking out this teaser. I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time.
Move with the rhythm. Shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. Sing 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.